Ed Jones, you should be used to this by now. We've done a number of these. How are you?
I'm doing quite well today, thank you.
How's business?
It's still up about 30% to 40, which is fantastic. Also exhausting by the end of the day, but I am not complaining.
And if people are tuning in, we don't know, they may be seeing this for the first time. You are the owner of Nutrition World or nutritionw.com here in Chattanooga, but you can shop anywhere just off your website.
Yeah, nutritionw.com. We have a great online presence now. Thank you, COVID, for that one, because there's a blessing always found in everything, even in the darkest of nights. And so that's one of several. It also has allowed us to be more aggressive at educating the public about how you can use nourishment and how you can use nutrition to bolster your immune system so that you don't really have too many worries on this journey.
Well, one of the things we talked about probably a month or two ago, and we've said it a couple times, is there is, of course, tragedy and fear and anxiety and what we're going through. But the conversation we're starting to hear from mainstream doctors and leaders and politicians, that conversation is something you and a lot of your colleagues have been preaching for decades. And that is what we put in our body, supplementation, active lifestyle, this holistic thing that you've lived. We're starting to hear that conversation come from other folks finally.
I've never seen a time in the history of nutrition world, which has been 42 years this January, where more people have embraced self-care and nutrition than they have in the past 5 months. That's another blessing for the whole community of the United States. Many of us felt that we treat our bodies kind of like a Ford F-150 truck. You drive it, you run it as hard as you want, and when it breaks down, you simply go to the right garage, the doctor, and they're going to patch you up. Well, patching is the perfect word. Is like putting a patch on a tire that had a nail in it. It is not as good as it used to be. I want people's body to be as good as it used to be. You can only do that through nourishment, education, and nutrition. You cannot do it by taking 17 pharmaceuticals, which is the average amount of pharmaceuticals the average Tennessean is on per year is 17. Can't happen. You have to get back to the roots of health and healing, which is food, sleep, nourishment, and sunshine, vitamin D, testing blood levels of vitamins, which is almost never done. So there's answers to be found. It's not that difficult, people.
All right, couple questions because these are designed to kind of move quick and direct everybody to, of course, vitalhealthradio.com, nutritionw.com, and the holisticnavigator.com. But I saw you did a podcast. Give me the thumbnail, just the quick version of what is vitamin K2?
K2 is one of the uh, most important nutrients and also the one probably on the least of the radar screen of anyone. You could poll 150 docs and nurses and nurse practitioners right now that's traditional, and I would say 97% of them say, oh no, don't take vitamin K. We don't know enough about it. It could be dangerous. It could be. The only reason they say that is because Coumadin interacts with it. The one single drug that interacts with K is still what's in their head. If you don't okay, this is what's going to happen. You're going to build plaque at a rate of 2 to 5 times higher than if you had vitamin K in your system. We don't have to take pills in order to be completely balanced nutritionally. The problem is, I don't know of anybody who eats well enough, and I try harder than almost anyone, and I'm still low in most of these things. So you have to supplement. Sorry, but you do. And you take one pill a day of vitamin K, and it's going to help osteoporosis, help prevent plaque in arteries, and actually, in animal studies, reduces plaque by 32% in 3 months from one daily dose of vitamin K.
I'm going to have to look up and see what foods also vitamin K are in, because I agree. If you take a vitamin, if you need to, or a supplement, absolutely. But it doesn't hurt to find out what foods you can take
Well,
to help supplement that.
exactly right. I'm still the devout person toward healthy foods, and it is the colored vegetables. Anyone who's been on warfarin, which is Coumadin, knows you have a big page of foods you can't eat. And most of those are green, healthy vegetables that have color in them. Well, that's pretty devastating to the human body when you can't eat those foods, but you can't if you're on warfarin or Coumadin. you're going to be deficient in K, even worse. You have to do that. The physician I interviewed from Canada, she's written the book on vitamin K, which is who I interviewed on theholisticnavigator.com. Amazing what she talks about. It actually made me up my level of vitamin K after hearing what she said about it.
Uh, Also wanted to touch base on going back to the Holistic Navigator is you had one of our mutual friends on your last podcast, and I saw the picture of you and him standing beside each other talking about weight loss and muscle gain. I'm assuming he is kind of the expert on the muscle gain part. Especially, I know he's got weight loss too, but it's IFBB pro bodybuilder Matt Davis.
I don't know of anyone I've ran across who has the encyclopedia of knowledge Matt does. There's plenty of guys who know how just to build muscle and maybe win contests, but they usually don't have health and longevity as part of the conversation. It's more short run of how do I get to be my best in 90 days, regardless of what happens and what damage goes along the way. Matt is totally different. He's all about the goal, but he's also about the goal of life and longevity and health and joints and preventing disease. Man is amazing how he's pulled all this together on his own mainly. So this didn't happen accidentally. He has studied unbelievably this whole subject. I love talking to Matt.
Well, and you can't see it right now, but I just pulled up a picture of Matt here on the screen so everybody can kind of see what he looks like. He's a really good guy, and I encourage everybody to go listen to that podcast. I just took it down so that way there's more room for me and you now, because if he's on the screen.
Yeah, he's pretty large man.
He's real smart. I've had him on 4 or 5 times, and you're right, he is really smart. One thing I wanted to bring up about Nutrition World, we touched on it every now and then, but I find myself, I go to the store and I try my best, as long as they don't have, the vanilla Oreos or my Dorito chips, I try to buy some healthy snacks. So I try to get the lightly salted almonds, which are really good, or pistachios, and of course fruit. But you at Nutrition World have a pretty good selection of healthy snacks if you're wanting to get something to feed that hunger, and you're getting good calories from it.
Well, we're actually the only store in town that has a full selection of organic nuts. Most nuts, even at the health food stores, it's find organic nuts. What does organic mean? Of course, there's no chemicals sprayed on it. We're swimming in the sea of chemicals from everything from the shampoo we use to the car fumes that come out of the seats and the diesel that's in front of you when you're driving. So we need to lower the container of toxins. One of those ways is to eat organic foods. Now, Whole Foods is going to be opening soon across on Gunbarrel Road where Earth Fair was. I'm actually for that because I want people to have more selection than they do right now. Chattanooga is far behind as far as being up on food selections, including restaurants. Whoever has the gonads to come out here, or female gonads to come out here in this part of town, who can do things like Southern Star does. I've ate there 3 times the past 5 days. Just a good meat and 3. You know what? Fix fresh broccoli and kale and baked chicken and have a reasonable price. Where are you going to go? You can't find these places much anymore because they're all family owned, and they just go out of business when the parents retire. So whoever comes out here first, or they could open a chain health food restaurant, and they're going to have them lined up.
Especially now. And I grew up with my mom cooking that kind of food. So I would go eat there because, I don't get to eat my mom's all the time anymore. I always like to say, or at least, read out when we have comments. Susan Gallo said, my husband was on Wayfaring, or is that how you say it, Ed? Wayfaring? Warfarin. I'm sorry. Warfarin. I should have my glasses. And what we learned is that he could eat things with vitamin K, but the trick is to keep the level consistent so the dosage doesn't have to be radically adjusted. So thank you, Susan, for chiming in.
That's exactly right. What happens is you kind of put together a modest plan, but they still want you to be reduced on those green vegetables. So they can regulate the medicine based on the normal diet. What happens though is whatever you decide to get regulated on is what you got to stick on. So you can't go out and have a whole bunch of something different because the regulated for that amount of broccoli. Well, I can tell you from experience, the majority of people eat very Full of them because it just makes life easier. That way they don't have to think about regulating. They just don't eat it.
You got any new? Okay, so I've said this 1,000 times. Back in the '90s, you came out with, you didn't come out with it, but you started carrying something called Penta Water, and I think Penta Water is still around, but it was this new oxygenated special water. And I remember, because I was your advertising rep, people were looking at me like, "Come on, it's water." It's water with a different, and I'm like, no, it's different. You take, you drink it, you feel different. And now, all these years later, this oxygenated or this infused type of waters are very popular, very effective. The reason I'm saying that is, are there any new things that are coming out that you like? Because I know it all goes through a hard test with you.
It does. I'm one of those people who actually embraces everything and then throws away half of it. And most people maybe, or I used to be, where I don't want anything until it's proven it works. Well, I'm now the opposite. I'll take everything and then I will decide. One new thing that is going to be here forever is hydrogen water. Hydrogen water has the most impact on our physical and mental health of any water that's ever been invented. Why is that? Hydrogen molecules are so small they will pass the brain barrier in minutes. Do you know anyone who, if you did know anyone who was suffering from this virus or from hangovers or traumatic brain injuries or things that happen to the brain? Hydrogen water within minutes can feed that system to a point that's miraculous. In fact, I've really been budget minded since all this crazy world came in, because that's the only way a business is going to make it today is sharpening their sword to a point that never had to be done before. We're doing that, but I'll tell you, Clint, I did a bad thing about a month ago. I'm so into this hydrogen that I hit the click button 3 times and ordered a $3,000 hydrogen machine that we're now putting together as of yesterday, where I can make my own water and breathe it. Because if I get sickly from anything, I'm convinced this hydrogen can be life-saving, especially for people who are really sickly people. But all you got to do is drink the water, and it's perfectly fine. You do have to drink it within 8 minutes because it bubbles the hydrogen off. And it's only like $2.99 for a container. You drink one a day or two. If you're sick, you drink 2 or 3.
Oh, I've got a question. I got a quick question. So, and then we've got another question over here I want to read to you. But so you say you got to drink within 8 minutes. So this isn't something I can buy, put in my refrigerator, or is it 8 minutes of opening? I mean,
After
how does that work?
you can buy it and then store it, but once
Okay.
you got 5 to 8 minutes, that's it.
All right. Before you go to the next trend or the next thing that's going there, the next product that you like, J.R. Finch asked you a question. What are your thoughts on 8G Greens supplement? Have you heard of that?
I have. There's so many greens, and I really feel most are reputable. But I will have to say that I've become such a skeptic of the raw materials that I really have to be proven now that those greens were grown in the right place, harvested the right time, and have been tested to have no chemicals. It's really easy for this stuff to get contaminated. So we've kind of narrowed our greens from, literally, we probably had 12 companies down to 3. They're the only 3 that's been proving to me to a level. In fact, one of them, I flew to Canada to see how they grew their greens. They did help pay for my flight, and I was convinced when I saw how it was grown. So I'm skeptical unless that company is actually growing their own greens. That I don't know.
I was going to ask, is there a seal or is there some way that if somebody's reading it?
A little. If it says non-GMO, gluten-free, organic, USDA, blank, 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 if there's 5 or 6 or 7 really good seals, it means a lot. It does.
Okay. All right. You got any other products there you want to talk about?
I've got a new protein that we do not have yet called Truvani. A rep gave it to me, and it is a plant-based protein that actually is using pea protein with pumpkin seed protein. The best protein I have ever had in my life. I have 2 scoops left, and that order better get here by tomorrow or I will die.
Why do you like it?
Mix is great, tastes fantastic, digests well. The taste is unbelievable. I can do it with a spoon, but it's just that intuitive feeling that I have, because I'm sensitive to things, and I only drink like 3 proteins, and that one, and my daughter Katie, just like me, she's been stealing my protein. That's why I'm down to 2 scoops, but it should be here tomorrow. And there's a lady on the internet called Food Babe. She has millions of followers. Amazing woman, Food Babe. She's the owner of that company, and I'm hoping to have her on my podcast because she is one hell of a outspoken and honest, ethical person about health.
Well, and speaking of podcasts, you've got one coming out Friday, and it's about iron overload. Give everybody the thumb sketch of that. And if I'm just an average person listening to this, why would I care?
Why you care is if you ever watched a piece of metal in your backyard or a junkyard you pass and watch how metal rust, that's what happens to your body past 40 years old if you have too much iron circulating. You and I were brought up in an age of Geritol, and those commercials, and they weren't evil by any means, but it was like, if you take iron, you're going to have more energy and vitality and feel better and look better. Well, that's true if you're anemic, but it's one of the few nutrients that is devastating to you in excess. Why do women do better than men up to a certain point? Because they are giving blood every month, so they get rid of the iron. Men who, or women now, who drink wine with red meat, you are tripling the iron absorption from the red meat because of the red wine or regular wine. Secondly, and I was reminded of this last month, a lady came to me, and we do blood testing here at Nutrition World on the last Friday of each month. You can just walk in at 8 o'clock and get it done. Her iron level is very, very high. And she said, I said, so you don't take supplemental iron? No. You don't take a multiple with iron? No. And I said, okay. Do you eat cereal? Yes. Many bowls a day. Which cereal do you eat? It was Raisin Bran or one of those. Looked it up. Each serving had 18 milligrams. That's equal to a pill that we sell. She was eating 3 pills a day from cereal. No wonder her iron was so high, and she felt terrible, and she was aging fast. So getting the right blood test, which you will not do at a physical, won't be done. Insurance will not pay. You have to put this on your own shoulder, walk into a lab, and know what you need to get done and evaluate it. But ferritin is the test you need. Ferritin, and men and women need to be about 60 on the blood test. Guess what? The reference ranges go to 250. You could go to your doctor, and they'll say, if you had 240 of ferritin, oh, you're good. You're good, Clint. Oh, we'll see you next year. That's because they're not trained in this. It's not they're bad people. They're not trained. My ferritin, I just got a blood test last week. It was 72. Teeny bit higher than I want, but I'll make sure that it's going to go down a little. But ferritin's the key to aging.
And that blood test that they can get at Nutrition World, it encompasses all the stuff we've talked about: vitamin D, vitamin C, everything, right?
You can choose what you want. You can get,
Okay.
but if a person is willing to spend $320, we can get everything. Most people spend about $120, and they get a good amount. So
Right.
choose what you want.
And does this have anything to do with? I've got friends that give blood on a consistent basis, and I'm going to say this. The terminology is wrong, but it's called, they thin their blood out. In other words, giving blood helps the platelets, or gives you less clotting. Is this iron thing part of that, or is that separate? Two
Well,
separate things.
really, other than eliminating sources of iron, you have to give blood to lower it if you've got high levels, like that woman I talked to last week. Strongly said to her, please go give blood assurance, give blood. The thing is, some of the guys you and I both know are having to get blood because they're on steroids. Steroids make you have too many red blood cells, which is different than having too much iron. They both kind of do the same thing. But again, the only option you have with that is to go get blood at blood assurance.
Gotcha. All right, so let's do this. We're running up on 20 minutes. We like to keep these kind of short. We've talked about your podcast coming out, and when does that come out?
We post one every other Friday, but this Friday it should be the one on iron. If not, it'll be the week Friday. I'm not sure what day, but iron overload. And people can always email me at nutritionworld@comcast.net if they want to ask a specific question. And on Vital Health Radio, Dr. Green and I went off on the whole conversation about this virus last week. So you can go to vitalhealthradio.com if you want to hear Dr. Green and myself talk about we don't need the culture of fear that's going on. We need common sense. So I just want to put that 2 cents worth in.
Yeah, well, you can check out that website, and if the iron episode is the week after, or not this week, but next week, there's plenty of content at the Holistic Navigator with Matt Davis. You've done one about the microbiome. You did one about K2, the vitamin K2. So, and plus you've got, I think it's 40 or 50 now conversations on there?
About 81.
Oh, wow. Wow.
I looked at one from Dr. Michael Smith on this on the protocol that he believes in for getting well and staying well during this pandemic. I looked, we had 697 listeners through our site and 196 through iTunes. So we had almost 1,000 people listen to Dr. Smith from Life Extension explain what you do if you get under the weather with this pandemic. That's almost 1,000 people. That's fantastic for a local yokel.
It is, and I encourage people to go check it out. And with all that being said, the store hours, everybody, if everybody wants to find information on that, just go to nutritionw.com and you can shop. You can find out your store hours and location and all that stuff.
Yep, Clint, thank you so much. You're always such a great fan of us.
Thank you. Well, it helps, and I've seen it help, and I like anybody that does something with passion. So thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye, Ed Jones. See y'all.
All right.